here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of the singer, guitarist and songwriter. It's the one and only Tracey Belland, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Was in Voice of the Beehive for that 10-year period, 3 studio albums. So this is the interview, so you'll find out more about that and lots of other interesting stuff. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Tracey, it's over to you.
Well, the first time I heard Joni Mitchell, everything changed. And then I heard Chrissie Hynde, and everything changed again. But right. I was definitely... When I was just starting to learn to play guitar, there was Elvis Costello, XTC, Bow Wow Wow, Adam and the Ants, The Clash, The Jam. Oh, I know I'm missing some people, but that was British music was madness. That was what I was into. The Pretenders just ruled my life. I loved them. I thought James Honeyman Scott was one of the best guitar players. He was my favorite. I loved the way he sounded so crunchy and dirty, but he played these melodic riffs, like from Kid and the way, and I just, between that, those people formed my songwriting. I always say it's a combination of Joni Mitchell, Chrissie Hynde, and I just really appreciated Judy Garland.
Right.
Young kid, how she sang and just the emotion. I don't aspire to her at all. I mean, she's one of a kind, but those were the 3 women that really informed me as far as but I've been listening a lot lately to Elvis Costello, and I realized how much he influenced my songwriting. He could take a word and just like shape-shifted into what he wanted from the word. You know, he would do it with syllables or pronunciation or rhythm. He'd make more syllables than there were in the word. And he was such a clever writer with the double meanings. You know, and I listened to it again and I think, God, he was really great. It wasn't, some things don't age well, you know, you listen back and go, oh my God. But Elvis Costello is just better than ever. I thought he was amazing. Trust and Armed Forces were a really big influence on my songwriting.
Yes. So his first album, it wasn't with the Attractions, it was with an American band called Clover, wasn't it? I think, was that Huey Lewis? And then was that Huey Lewis's band at the time that I
wouldn't be surprised because I know Huey Lewis. Wow. I'm thinking Martin Crenshaw and Nick Lowe. Huey Lewis is interesting. He's so American.
Yes, but I do remember because my boss in the 80s was obsessed with Elvis, so I got obsessed with Elvis as well. And I really love that period, apart from Blood and Chocolate, because unfortunately there's a track on it called I Want You, and he was going through a bit of a messy breakup, and it was like this 8-minute song of, and it's like, oh my God, the lyrics are a bit too raw. So I had to sort of listen to Peter kind of angsting himself, going, I don't think we should be listening to Blood and Chocolate anymore. Can we just play something like Tracy Chapman's album?
And you listen to that track with the vocals, not only the lyrics and the production, but the vocals are gnarly. It's like, have a drink, mate. Chill out.
Yes, it was like, God. So yes, I did an interview with Steve Naive quite recently because he's still doing bits and pieces. And yes, he goes back out. And they always finish with what's so funny about peace, love and understanding, which in this day and age is probably a very apt thing to do.
I had totally forgotten about that song, and it came on in the car, and I thought, oh my God, I forgot about this track. And I just turned it up, and I thought it applies. You could play it, today, and it's exactly right. So
yes. So actually, Trust was, God, it was at 1981. So actually, it was his 5th studio album. I always think of it as an early one, but it's not, is it?
So good. And then, like I said, Armed Forces and My Aim is True. And then my favorite, believe it or not, I like the older ones for just what they taught me, but I really rate Imperial Bedroom. That song to me just doesn't have a clunker on it. It's so rich in melody with the strings. It's just a beautiful record. And I listen to that. That's a record that never goes off my rotation.
Yes, actually, because Elvis was one of those ones. I saw him at the UEA, and there was like the early '80s, and there was because support bands always have a hard time, don't they? No one's really that interested in them. But this time it was the Pogues, and I remember thinking, God, they're really good. I'm sure they're going to go far. And it was like, God, and then suddenly they caught on, didn't they? So that was one of those
Yep.
few times, which was brilliant. And then years later, I saw him because he did this fantastic collaboration with Burt Bacharach, and
Yes.
I don't know. And we managed to get down to London to see it, and it was like because I love Burt Bacharach, so
Yeah.
it was a bit. And that album, I still think is just gorgeous. So that
Yeah.
was kind of amazing. So, and then I saw him at Glastonbury. God, I know this is an Elvis show now, isn't it? I saw him at Glastonbury in the late '80s, and he came on. He did his solo stuff, and I thought, oh, this is a bit dull. And then suddenly the curtains came back, and the attraction was there, and oh my God, that was one of my highlights. So.
Right. I saw him at Glastonbury too. I wonder, God, it was a long time ago, but the one I saw when I saw him live, I've seen him a lot. It's always one of the best shows because song after song after, they're all good songs. There's not one where you're, oh, I got to go to the loo,
Yes,
love this one even more than I love the last one.
I know
Yeah.
it was a classic. So obviously, yeah, and just on that Joni Mitchell, because obviously I love Joni. Which was your Joni Mitchell go-to album or albums, by the
Court and
way?
Spark. Well, see, it's funny because Court and Spark is what introduced me to her. My parents were divorced, and my dad had a girlfriend that gave him Court and Spark. And I read the lyrics and I thought, this looks really good. I'm going to play it. And I played it and fell in love. But Hygieia is my absolute favorite record. And
Oh,
obviously, but Hygieia, that's what got the travel bug for me. That's something when I heard her sing, planted a seed about became unsettled and I didn't want to stay where I was and I wanted to go. That's I wanted to leave. Well, where? I don't
yes.
know. I just want to leave. I want to go. I want to move forward and I want to see things bigger than here. So she really put that kind of
That
romantic
bug.
idea
Does it have
about,
Black Crow on it? Was that the one with Black Crow on B side? Yeah,
yeah,
that was my favorite track on it, really.
diving down to every shiny thing. That's
Yeah,
me.
God, it was great actually. I know, yeah, I mean, it was like Corden Spark and Blue, and then his Miles of Isles, live albums. I
Miles of
just
Isles is great. Love
so
Miles of Isles.
and then and she's very seasonal for me because obviously I've been starting to play the hissing of summer lawns because it's sort of
Love
has that
it.
evocative. The boho dance is just one of those tracks, isn't it? Really. So
Yeah.
yes, dear old Joni. God, she's still with
Yeah.
us. It's amazing, really.
I know.
So what were your, I mean, obviously you're having a musical family in life there. I mean, what was the first kind of gig you went to or concert that you sort of managed to sneak into?
The first concert I saw was with my grandma, who took me to see Liza Minnelli at the Greek Theater, which is an outside amphitheater. And that was Judy Garland's daughter.
Yes.
And I really loved her, but I don't know. I think I fell in love with her and I fell in love. There's so many different facets of music that I love, not only about Joni, but about like the Clash and about Bow. They're all to me very different. But there was something I could take from all of them. And I really felt inspired by that, especially like I said with Joni Mitchell and the traveling. And then you've got Elvis Costello with the wordplay and the puns and the twisting. And then you've got XTC with the clever lyrics and the lightheartedness, and then you had the crunchy guitar of the Clash. So I just loved all of it wherever it fell in my influences. I just loved all the bits of that to take to not only form a musical opinion but just a sensibility.
Yes. So when you got to 16, did you leave school at that stage? Like we in the UK, especially in the 70s, actually in the 80s, people
I
could just
lived in America until 1985, and then I moved to London for 86 to 96.
the classic indie pop years.
Oh, and that was all about Eve and the Sugar Cubes. And Boy Wonder was then. God, it's so weird because the indie scene wasn't doing a lot when we were there, and they didn't know where to place us. We're not commercial, not enough, and then we're not
Yes.
really. We fell somewhere. Hold on. Sorry about that.
That's
Tell me if
okay.
you move if the noise is too loud.
No,
We
that's
fell
fine.
somewhere in between, and we never fit comfortably into any category.
So you and
So
your so you and your sister in the mid-80s, did you have a plan to say, right, we've got to, we've got a great idea, we're going to move to the UK at that
well, we
stage?
always had a fantasy of being in a band together, and this is such a weird influence, but Split Enz influenced us a lot because the
Right,
brother. And I loved their harmonies and I loved their quirkiness. And I don't know, I thought they were great. But my sister and I have very different tastes. She's really into funk, where I love the English, I love the British rock stuff. So
right.
it was a happy medium, but she knows Nina Simone and MC, I don't even know what they're called, MC5?
Well, yes, MC5, Kick Out the Jams, mother.
Okay.
So there was and there was all that kind of, I suppose, I don't know, George Clinton and Funkadelic and Parliament.
Yeah,
that
Missy
kind of
loves
stuff.
that. I'm not a very funky person.
So were there any American bands? I hate to typecast you, but were there any, did you go through a journey? Oh, look, Pete Frampton comes live, Boston Kids.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, see, you said American, and I'm thinking my biggest influence when I was in high school, Led Zeppelin, period.
Right.
Led Zeppelin was it. Frampton was in there. The Stones came later. The Beatles were not a part of that picture. I knew them, but they weren't like Zeppelin. Zeppelin was it.
Yes.
And I still rate them as one of the best bands of all time because they're so versatile.
Yes.
I mean, they do the folk rock and then they do the rock and roll with the, guitar riffs, and then they do the country, twangy stuff. They're just still, to me, one of the best bands. And it doesn't hurt that it's the background of my high school life where I had an absolute blast.
Yes, well, absolutely. Did you get to see them live at all?
No, I didn't.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I never saw him live.
These
I got to
things
meet
happen.
Robert Plant.
Nice, my God, that's fantastic, and George Benson, which is amazing. So, I wanted to be a football player when I was young, and I got a pair of George Best football boots, and
he was cute.
He looked very good. I'm not surprised. He still looked good in '88.
He's a handsome man. But I was too distracted with the house and me renting it that I just didn't even.
Yes, you had your Daily Mirror experience, didn't you? There. Oh. So then, because then you had that punk period, and then like a bit post-punk, and it was people like, as you mentioned, Elvis Costello, and I suppose then a few other bands came along. I suppose Gang of Four, the Mekons, and Public
Love Gang of Four
and all those kind of bands. But then 83, this is like, for me, 83 to 87, indie pop, it's also the years of the Smiths. I say this every time. But, there was like this massive, for me, indie pop sort of really like, oh my God, the Smiths came along and they had all those angsty lyrics about loneliness and heartbreak and alienation. It was, fantastic. This is someone knows me so well.
That's a big influence that I should not leave out is the Smiths and Morrissey. I don't care what people say about him. I'm looking at the art, not the guy.
Yes.
And Morrissey's not a lovable guy. Let's face it, he's just not. But he has done more for me as far as emotionally, like making me feel, not less alone, making me feel less alone. Morrissey and the Smiths. I didn't get them until I moved to England. Why is he miserable? Why is he hanging out at the YMCA? I don't get his lyrics. And he seems to complain a lot and try to make the best of things. And then I went to England and learned about the dole and learned about the gray streets and the poverty and royalty. And I got, I said, okay, now I get the Smiths and now I love them. Just like I have a quick story. Our manager, Dave Balfe.
Oh, Dave, my God, I didn't interview Dave. He was in Deaf School and Liverpool Eric scene, wasn't he?
Really? With Julian, right?
Yeah.
Julian Coe?
Yeah, and
He never
Bill
Bill
Drummond.
Drummond, yeah. He
He's
never got the Eagles. He said, I never got him either. He just said, I don't get the Eagles. I don't get this mellow stuff. And he came to California and we had the top down and we were driving along the Coast Highway. And he said, I get the Eagles now. Just like I
God.
got the Smiths. Okay, I got it. I got it. Now I've got a frame of
Well, it's
reference.
really strange because when you talk about Manchester and like greyness, and like, and then I could see like Joy Division, and I did the same when we had a road trip. It was kind of drive into Vegas and then get a car and drive around the national parks and see, and listen to music, and suddenly I went, I really get, and I get the Eagles.
Yeah.
I did, So when you had that, I thought, oh my God, that was.
Sun, the palm trees, the laid back vibe.
Jesus,
I
I was
wanted to
like,
mention,
yes. We
I
even
wanted to
went. We even went to standing on a corner just to have our photograph taken there.
I
In
want to
Winslow,
mention that
Arizona.
I was really influenced too, and my sister as well, by LA Punk too. I loved LA Punk. I loved X. I loved the Germs. I loved Fear, the Dead Kennedys. So
Right.
that's something.
Was Alice Bag part of that as well?
Who?
Alice Bag? God, she was in a band called.
Wasn't she British?
No, God, Alice wasn't. God, she's fiercely American. She
I
was
can't
in
fake like I know. I know who she is, but I don't. I didn't have her on my turntable. Put it that
Alice
way.
Bag. She's also, I think she's just done her book. Has she done her book?
X is a great band that have really gone down as an important band in punk rock because they were a thinking man's punk rap band. They didn't just shout, they shouted about like literary things and social issues. So they had a huge influence on my sister and I. We saw them
Yes.
a million times live. I loved Exene's style. I loved John Doe. They were really important on a I hate that expression, but on a basic level, fundamental, in that I saw them in my neighborhood play all the time, in Hollywood. And they just influenced me to want to make music as well. And Missy feels the same way. We thanked Exene on our first record because she was an
Right.
example of a girl in music, a woman.
Yes. So there was bands like Nervous Gender, 45, Grave.
Romeo Void,
Yes. Oh,
Urban
yeah.
Lawns.
The Screamers and all those bands. And the band called The Bags with Alice Bag. Blimey.
Okay.
I know it's kind of, it's quite the scene, wasn't it, really, at that
Yeah.
time? Yes. So then, yes, because I've come across a lot of Australians and New Zealand musicians who went, right, we're going to have to sort of come to London, live in squatland, like the Triffids, the Chills, the Go-Betweens, all those sort of bands, and various other bands. So you and your sister turned up in London in sort of 80, was it 85 or 86, did you say?
It was the end of 85. We made our
Right.
first video in 86.
God. And then, so you landed there. Did you learn about I know you mentioned the Dole, because one of the reasons I think there were so many indie pop bands in the 80s was because we had great social security system, like people could sign on the Dole. They had job seekers allowance, enterprise allowance schemes. You got your housing benefit, you've got council tax paid, and about £35 to live off a week, which when you're young, you don't, that seems like plenty of money.
And I thought, what is the system here? What do you get to do? You sign on, and it's more you make less working than signing on. Well, wait a minute. It was
Yes.
a new world, but I loved it. I worked in a pub myself in Islington called the Three Wheat Chiefs, and I think I made £6 for like 4 hours work. And I learned a lot then because I learned about the wind up, which I didn't know about. And I learned about there was an older man who used to get Guinness from me, and he taught me Cockney. So I got all the little Cockney. He used to call me China plate for mate. And he taught me Cockney. So that taught me things that I could take out and practically apply,
Yes. So then
Although I'd leave crying every day because they wouldn't let me use a calculator, and I had to do it in my head, and it was sometimes a lot of orders, and they wound me up. I didn't get the British wind up. They're winding me up, and they're teasing me, and they hate me, and my English mate goes, no, that means they like you. If they wind you up and they're taking the piss, it just means they like you. It means they like you.
Yes.
Oh my God, well, that's weird.
And
But now I get it.
It's a terrifying job working behind the bar because, you know, that whole thing about sort of remembering orders and then money, and you think, oh, give us a five and we'll just call it quits. I don't know.
That's exactly what I did. I might have made them money, but also being an American, the minute I open my mouth, what'll you have? There's a whole load of jokes and question. You know, I was different even if I tried to blend in. But it was
Yes.
good. I think it was good for me. And the thing is, I got fired for giving an old woman, this Cockney guy's wife, I gave her half a Guinness for free, and they found out and they fired me. She
God.
did the dishes, and when she did the dishes, I noticed she would sweat, so I gave her half a Guinness, and they fired me. And about 3 months later, they had Thursday night Top of the Pops every Thursday night, and I came on. I guess at the pub they were watching Top of the Pops, and I came on with my band. Yay! I'm in a band. You can keep your £6.
Yes, keep your six. Well, that was funny because I remember I did an interview with Fast Eddie from Motorhead, and at the time, you know, he was doing a labouring job, and then he said, "Look, can I go a bit early today because I want to be on Top of the Pops a bit later." You know, it was like, what? It's like, don't
Yeah,
think. I think, what have you been drinking, smoking, taking? You know, but he was. You know, they suddenly got there, and it was like, right, we're out. That's the end of my
right.
labouring years. So then, okay, you and your sister are there in London, and then how do you then start creating a band? Because actually there was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of musicians I've interviewed who went to London, and you know, like there was a band called the Sidleys who, you know, Johnny Johnson. I mean, she again did something quite similar, sort of trying to find musicians. So how did you then find, you know, the rest of the band?
Well, I had written a lot of songs with the band I was with in Santa Barbara called The Boys. So I had Trust Me, Just a City, and some other ones I had written. So I had the songs. My sister and I had the harmonies, and then somebody told me about a bloke who lived down the street who made demos, and I said, you know, they said if you throw him a couple quid, he'll make a demo of your song. And I thought, I got nothing else to do, but work in the bar, so I've got, you know, time and money, not money, but I've got time. So I went down and talked to him and played him Just a City, and it was also a song called This Week, and it was Mike Jones, and we made a demo of This Week and Just a City. And I liked him a lot. We had a shorthand immediately and his ideas just gelled with mine. We were very much the same musically. And I told him about Honeyman Scott, who I loved, and the Pretender's Edge. And he told me about some bands he really liked. And the minute we met, it was easy to communicate with him. So we made the demos. The demos accidentally got interest because my boyfriend, who wrote I Walk the Earth, was shopping his demo to Food Records, and they accidentally played the other side, which I was on.
Right.
And they
Blimey.
said, we don't want your band, but where's the girl? So that ended that relationship.
Yes.
It's not funny. It wasn't at the time, but so then I called my sister, who went back home after visiting London. I said, you know, they're asking for a showcase. Why don't you come over and let's try this?
Right.
So we showcased with a drummer and another bass player and did our first gig. And
Brilliant.
God love Adrian Thrills gave us an amazing review. The first line was, "Now this is more like it." And
God, that's fantastic.
had a lot of power, you know. So we, Mike and my sister, we auditioned for other members. We had Betters for a while, and then we had Woody, and then we finally got Martin. So it happened. It wasn't easy, but it was kind of organic in that we weren't trying to fit something where it didn't fit. It seemed to fit. And if we just relaxed and just kind of if we were teachable as far as what we were supposed to do, it happened. It happened relatively easily. I mean, we were poor. We used to have something called poverty salad we would make that we lived on, that was just like cucumber and peanuts with some dressing. We had no money. But
Yes.
that part of it, getting a band together, was I don't think it was easy. I think it was charmed. I really think it was charmed. I think whatever was in the air and Voice of the Beehive came together.
God, that's extraordinary, isn't it? It's like, the stars aligned, or you were sitting on some ley line or something dramatic like that. Yes, because Martin had been in the band called I, Ludacris, who did that great indie classic Preposterous Tales, hadn't he, at that stage? So there was a lot of these kind of bands like Bogshed, Big Flame, Stump, very John Peel-esque bands.
I love Stump.
I know, we loved Stump so much, didn't we? Tupperware Stripper, what a classic. I don't know. I think that was Stump. I get kind of sometimes, some of them, no, that it was them, Bogs. I mean, they were just a great load of bands, actually, weren't they? Sort of on indie labels who were there. They were going to do, because a lot of indie bands at that point, I think they were just happy to do a couple of singles, a John Peel session, and then a few other bits, and that was their ambition. But then other bands, I sort of found they have a bit of a 5-year narrative. They'd get together, 12-month honeymoon period, the John Peel play, then the John Peel session, then the album and the transit band around all the indie clubs, then the second album, and then possibly a third one. But it was interesting, that kind of, by then they're really getting tired.
Remember the June Brides?
Oh, bloody Phil Wilson. I mean, God, what a man. What a
Brides, Darling Buds.
The Darling. And you had the Primitives and Mighty Lemon Drop.
What?
There was the Primitives, Darling Buds, June Brides, the Mighty Lemon, Mighty as well.
Wooden Tops.
The Wooden Tops with Rolo. They were just
all of that era.
So there was a real scene there, and I guess people were very keen. I mean, I suppose when you came along, I mean, the sound was very snappy, and we'd had, I don't know if the Bangles were still on the rise or whether I don't know where the Bangles were, but they came along, didn't they? And were like, wow, that's kind of bright and breezy and excitable, which was nice. And, and it was kind of a relief because there was all that, I quite like Bruce Springsteen, and I'd actually went to see him live on the Born in the USA tour.
Nice.
But it was a lot of that kind of, blimey, the sound. There was a sound, wasn't there, of the 80s, is it the gated reverb, Trevor Horn-esque kind of, blimey. It was just too much sometimes. Tina Turner, Dire Straits, and that new romantic stuff with Duran Duran and Spandau Ballet. I was like, God, I couldn't relate to any of it. That's why I was much more of an indie kid, listening to John Peel.
Here. Exactly for the bands you mentioned, Dire Straits. I'm like, I didn't get them. I still don't get them.
No, but
they're good enough, but not my thing. I'll take ecstasy.
Yes, well, absolutely. But then talking of almost XTC, but some. So when 87 was kind of a bit of a moment because the Smiths break up, so the end of that moment, and then that sort of music scene with Ecstasy came along, and that next wave of 18-year-olds come in, and people want their band. So you was kind of on that cusp, really, weren't you? Though you weren't part of the indie scene. So, but definitely music was changing at that point. What was it kind of like? So you got the first single was out then at that point, was it?
First single was Just a City. The first indie single was Just a City.
Right. So that came out on Food Records in 87. So was that produced by the one and only Hugh Jones at that stage?
Yes. God bless you. I love you.
Yes. What studio did you go to for that?
We went to Rockfield.
My God, you went to Rockfield. Jesus, they loved you,
Can you imagine a girl that's obsessed with British music? Oh, yeah, Hugh Jones. We're going to Rockfield. Crazy.
Yeah. This is where they recorded, I don't know, Black Sabbath.
Everything. Yes. Oh, it was so... And this was the old Rockfield because it's been really redone. It was redone 20 years, 30, 40 years ago. And this was when it was just in its infancy. And it was so exciting. And I remember my boyfriend at the time, Brad Nack, who had written I Walk the Earth, recorded an album there just on an 8-track while we were recording our album. And then he put it out and it said recorded in Rockfield Studios, Wales, because it was on an 8-track, but it was recorded on the property.
My God. Did it ever get released then?
It did in like Santa Barbara scene and indie scene. His band was called Brad as Sex. Right. It never did much, but it was good. He was really good. Yeah. Also, was sentimental about that because Just a City, I had come back from London. I had pulled up and I was locked out of my flat in Santa Barbara. And I realized while waiting for the locksmith that I wanted to be in London. And I was going to pack my stuff and I was going to move back. And it was just this sadness. I'll never get there again. I'll never get there again. And I'm so in love with London and I need to find a way back there. And while I was sitting waiting for the locksmith, I wrote Just a City. So it was
Blimey.
kind of a weird, again, a little weird cosmic connection because that ended up being the first single
Crikey.
at Rockfield with Hugh Jones producing.
Yes, God, that was fantastic. God, that
Yeah.
was so that was on Food Records with David Bath. So that was him.
Andy
And then
Ross.
when that came out, did London Records say, or was there a bit of a bidding war at that stage? People were desperate.
Yeah, there was a bidding war, and we did the dumbest thing. We had our signing party set up, and we hadn't signed. Balfe was in London Records negotiating, saying, I'm going to walk out. We're not doing this still. If you don't do blah, blah, blah. And people are arriving to our signing party, and they haven't signed the contract yet. So here, have champagne. What label are you on? We don't know. Have some champagne. We never could be patient. So we finally signed, and that was a fun night.
Yeah.
Wild night. It was fun.
God, that was, and then the first single was I Say Nothing.
Which is my favorite song.
Fantastic.
I have to say that's my favorite song I've ever written.
Yes, my God, it's pretty tricky, isn't it, when you hit sort of gold so early, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that song really just came. You've heard of experiences like that, and it just came. It just came to me, and it flowed right into me. I was a conduit. I don't take a lot of credit for that song because I just, did you lose connection?
I didn't, the vocals were great. You froze, but I was happy with the freezing bit. So that's cool. We were there.
Okay,
so you were
great.
just talking about that. So, yes.
Right. So that was a really personal song, and it just came. I remember writing it, but I don't remember thinking hard about it. I remember it just came easily, and they don't always do that. In fact, they rarely do that. Maybe for Taylor Swift they do, but not for me.
Well, I guess, yes, I do wonder how, for an artist, what it's like trying to create this thing, and why sometimes when you look at certain work, like we'd say Morrissey, his kind of lyrics and everything was so brilliant during that period in the 80s. And when I listen to the lyrics he writes now, I just think they're so kind of I couldn't, I kind of think, well, perhaps it's because I'm older, perhaps it's because it's, blah, blah, we know what he's a bit more like. But it's like, they're just not that great, the lyrics. Whereas those ones that he wrote in, I don't know if there's some spiritual connection or some purity of the soul or something that happens that kind of gives him or gives the artist that moment. Whereas now it feels a bit like, I don't know, the makeup is a lie. And I think, well, it's not the greatest song I've ever heard.
But it says makeup is a lie 10 times. What else do you have, honey? There's got to be more to say right now.
Yeah,
but I think I got to give him credit. You can't be Morrissey for a very long time. You can't be that brilliant and work at that level of genius for years and years. It comes, it shines, it changes the world. It changes people in that era, and then obviously he can't he can't be that good for that long. Nobody can. It's inhumane to expect it. It's, so I understand because Makeup is a Lie, I really didn't like it. And I thought, you did enough. You did enough. Thank you so much. You changed my life. You can rest now. But he likes to make music. I thought a lot of his songs I've really liked. I liked the Ringleader of the Tormented.
Yes.
I loved that. And I loved The Quarry. Something about The Quarry.
Yes, The Quarry. I mean, I like the one that Mick Ronson produced, Your Arse.
Right.
I thought it was quite good. But then I don't know if you heard the latest or the last Cure album, Robert Smith's the Cure.
No.
And
Can't believe I haven't.
that's up there with David Bowie's Black Star album. It's just like an extraordinary piece of work, which is quite
Really?
chilling. And when you hear it, by the end of it, it works as a whole album, a bit like a Joni Mitchell or an Elvis Costello, and it just is like, God, he's really put that together. So it's like you listen to the first to the last song on side 2, even if it's a CD or you're streaming it, you still get that feeling, and you think, Jesus, that is an amazing piece of work, Robert. Somehow you're still on it, so I don't know. That's my.
I'm going to have to look into that.
You have to listen to it, and when you listen to the lyrics, you think, Jesus, that is quite chilling and stunning. There was something quite amazing about Robert. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Really, the artist. So when you did the debut album, Let It Be, were those songs that you'd already had, or were you having to sort of quickly?
I'd say half of them we had, and the other half we wrote at a steady pace. And the second record was the same. It didn't break my back to write until the third one, and then it's like things started falling apart. Right. But I actually preferred the second record to the first one, maybe because the songs were with me for so long, because before they came vinyl or got played on the radio, I could live and not hear I Walk the Earth Again. I would survive if I didn't have to listen to that song ever again. Barbarian in the back of my car, or especially Don't Call Me Baby. That's cool. You take those. I'll keep Adonis Blue, Monsters and Angels, and we'll be good.
Yes. Well, it must be true. So what was touring like? Because you obviously went from, your takeoff was very quick, wasn't it? And suddenly you're sort of there at Rockfields, got the album, the band comes together, and you must have jumped from, like the little indie clubs to a bigger stadium to a world stage. So what was that like as a band?
What really changed it is when we charted, when we got in the top 20, I believe. And yeah, the top 20, things started suddenly really changing really quickly. We also got a lot of TV, a lot of kids' TV, a lot of Sunday morning shows, a lot of breakfast time, evening time, the Tube, the Word, all that. So
and Dungeons.
Yeah. And it kind of, one show we played was at, a pretty big pub, like a Lexington kind of place. And it was a great gig. And then we toured around and came back, and we were selling out Town and Country 2 nights in a row. So it happened over the matter of, at the most a month.
Yes. God, that's amazing. And did you have a manager at that stage?
We did. I think. Yeah, we did. It was Balfe. It was David Balfe.
Right. So, God, the man who started it all, David, what a star.
Well, I think Andy Ross started it all. Andy Ross is the one that found us and said, there's something here. And David Balfe followed. So Andy he used to have what I call the Ross ears, the Andy Ross ears, because he could hear. I went with him to see Blur when they were nothing, and he said, you got to see this band with me. And we'd go, and David was just climbing the walls and screeching. We thought, we've never seen anything like this. And we did the same thing with Jesus Jones. I worked at the record stand at Bowling Gate, and a band came on with some grubby guys, and they started singing Info Frico. And I thought, oh my God, I've never heard anything like this. And so I get sidetracked with other bands, but that was, the beginning when Jesus Jones happened, then we happened. And
yes. And then there was a kind of an interesting period as well, because then suddenly 4AD were bringing out bands like the Pixies and Throwing Muses, and then, you had Sub Pop with, Bleach from Nirvana. And then, things really, and then you had that North London scene, didn't you? You had people like My Bloody Valentine, Silverfish, the Faith Healers, all these bands. And you had that Grebo scene as well going on. And you seem to be right in there, sort of enjoying that indie pop stuff while, grubby indie stuff.
You can't forget Zodiac.
Zodiac Mindwarp. Oh my God. Did you see there was an amazing article on the news recently with Zodiac? Yeah, Jesus.
I did.
That's a bit humbling, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to reach him, but he's over in Devon, and he doesn't have a lot of memory. So he remembers everything from before 2022.
Right,
But
God.
he was one of my, I Say Nothing is about him. About the first night we went on a night crawl together and just had the best time. And we started a friendship that still goes on. So that was sad for me to get that article.
Yeah,
And
Jesus.
I send him letters, and I think he writes me back. He writes illustrations, and the last one I got is how he pictured me. It was so funny, with little dragonflies and stars and Tink's house. He used to call me Tink for Tinkerbell. And he
Right.
cottage because I live by the water, little cottage by the ocean. So that's how he's envisioning me among the fairies and the ocean, you know. So I have
Yes.
his letters and he has mine. So that's kind of cool that will always be, you know, a friendship that I
God.
really
Well,
hold them.
absolutely. And did you start going to the great English festivals like Glastonbury or Reading or any of those ones as
We
well?
did. We played them. I'm not a big fan of the festival.
They're very grubby.
They're fun when I'm 20, but it sounds to me like the worst thing to do right now. Go sit in the sun where no seat, you've got dirty grass and mud. Go sit there and listen to a band for 2 hours. It just sounds like a nightmare. And this is where I could say, I've been there and I've done it. Thanks for the experience. I'm out.
Yes, well, absolutely. God, no, it's one of those ones because we were obsessed, with the festy thing, and then people
Yeah.
go, "Oh, you don't want to go to festies? You're getting old and boring." It's like, the traveling there is just hideous. And
Oh,
we were leaving Glastonbury once. And we thought, "Oh, let's get up early and get going," and I thought, "Oh, this is going well on a Monday morning," and then we were at the back of this. We were on this, like lane getting to the road, and it's like this is still good, it's only 8 9 in. And then suddenly I realized what was happening. All the fields in front of us were going to empty, and we only got onto the road about 5 o'clock, and it was like we've been sitting there since 9, and it was like we should have been home. And I thought, actually, I'm not sure if I can do this anymore, so
oh, I
it's
could
not.
barely do it when when I was at my height.
Yes, I know. So back on the groovy albums, so you had quite a tight band. You had Mike on guitar, Martin on
Yeah.
bass, and then Woody on drums.
Yeah. And
And that,
Missy, we say she played the skirt. And me on redundant rhythm guitar. I love to do rhythm, but I couldn't play much else. I was
right.
self-taught. I didn't really know, I didn't know how to play guitar, but I knew enough to write the songs and I knew how to play the thing I had written. So that's, has to be enough for you people.
Well, yeah, absolutely. No, it's good. I mean, and then so the second album, that again, that was Plain Sailing, was it, at that stage?
It was what?
Plain Sailing, the second album, because that came out in 1991, didn't it?
Yes, and I don't know why we couldn't have just taken the songs, gotten a producer, and made a record. If you look at the second album, there are a lot of producers on it.
There's
There are a lot
loads. You've got Pat Collier, Lee Gorman, who was in Bow Wow Wow. And then you had Hugh, Don Was. I mean, you had more producers than musicians.
why couldn't we just get a producer and capture our kind of live sound on a record? Because they wanted a hit and they thought that there's a lot of money to be made from us and that we were going to be huge and they were looking for a hit. I mean, I think that's one reason what happened maybe to the songwriting is that I was trying so hard to please the record company that I stopped writing because I had something to say, and it was more writing to give them what they wanted, And that's not
Yes.
good for a writer. But I
No.
was in an enviable position, and I'm not complaining.
No. Well, yeah, that's that. So then there's a bit of a gap, and then Britpop appears. There's quite a gap between that and your third album. Is that kind of just the dark period? Was that your Dante's Inferno moment of this is where the
Kind
record?
of. Kind of. We were, oh God, the third record. I really like the third record, but I don't know if I like it as a Voice of the Beehive record. I think,
It's got a lovely sound to it, actually. I've been playing that more than the other two.
and I think Playing House is really good. I think Heavenly is beautiful. I think Blue in Paradise is good. But, it just, we weren't a concentrated group like we had been. And personally, I think, God love all the producers that have worked with us. I believe that we sounded, somebody could have taken our live sound and embellished that and made a really good rock and roll pop record. And I think that we just kept getting more and more and more and more produced. And we were getting farther and farther away. Having said that, Adonis Blue is one of my favorite songs, and that's highly produced. But I just think that would have served us better, because I can't tell you the number of times people came up and said, "You're so much better live than on record."
Right.
All the time, constantly. And I agree that we were a rock band live. We're definitely a pop band on record. So I would have liked to have been a little more of a Chrissie Hynde kind of rock thing.
Yes. It's strange because Britpop was happening. You would have slipped into that world so much easier because there was all those bands like I don't know, all of them, weren't they? It kind of got a bit more sort of raw and funky with people like Echo Belly and Sleeper, and then all that.
As much as we had charm things happen to us, like if we just waited literally 3 more years, 2 more years, but it just is what it is. I could spend forever thinking about that, but I don't.
And was touring quite arduous at that stage? Because was it quite a hard gig, sort of getting out there on the road and performing?
You mean, now is that for the second record or the third record?
Well, it was just because I did an interview with Martin, years ago because of I Ludicrous, and he mentioned about touring, and he said, he went a bit, it was really hard work. He said he knew he'd lost it when he'd spent 20 minutes talking to a mirror, and he was like, he said he thought, "Oh, I've gone a bit loopy, haven't I? I need to get out of this. It's not going terribly well." He also had a great story about doing some work in Scandinavia and sort of appearing at the place that George Michael had been, and seeing lots of
studios.
And seeing all these drugs, but then the guitarist of the band picked up the lyric sheets, written lyrics of Last Christmas. Is that true?
I thought it was Faith, but I could be wrong.
It doesn't matter, does it? Really?
Right. He was at the airport and going to this tiny little Puck Studios in the middle of nowhere in Denmark, and I think what happened was that the driver didn't show up, and Martin needed to drive because he was the only one that really could, and he was pissed. And I think that I remember that I had my luggage, and I had so much luggage just because I wanted stuff to do. And my cart, I lost control of my cart, and it rammed right into the back of his foot. Oh my God. And I thought I crippled George Michael for life. I feel awful. We were so starstruck and so excited. And he was so sweet. And that was really just a good memory. If I ever do write anything, I have to get the details of that, because Martin remembers, although Martin tells a good story, if you know what I mean, sometimes better than it really is. But and also, my best memory ever of being in the band was we were at Puck Studios in the middle of nowhere. I was walking down a long road back to the houses, and I call my sister Ray. And I was walking, and I saw a figure come toward me, and I said, "Ray?" And Ray Davis said, "Yes." They were recording in the studio next to us. And I said, "Oh, I meant my sister." I just fell apart. The Kinks are somebody I'm really starstruck for. I've met everybody, but the Kinks, I love them so.
That is...
Yeah, Ray in the dark, in the stars. Ray? Yes. Oh.
God, you could just babble for a few minutes and crawl away. God.
I was so shy. I went, "Hi." And walked away.
Just looking for my sister.
Exactly.
My God, that was quite... So did you just go there once for that experience? Because had Depeche Mode also been there as well as George? And
I believe we went there twice. No, we only went to Puck once. A lot of bands recorded there. That was another good place to go. It wasn't the history of Rockfield, although it probably has the history of Rockfield now.
Yes.
And there forever.
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful. But I had hit my head dancing a few nights before at Dingwalls. I fell back, hit my head, and I got a concussion. And there was one night at the table with Pete Collins, very distinguished producer, and I couldn't stop laughing. I physically couldn't stop. I had a concussion, and it got really obnoxious. And everybody's like, "What are you doing? Stop with the giggling." And I couldn't. So he loved us anyway, but that was not a good night.
Yeah, it's like things get messy, don't they? So because I guess at that stage you were on East West Records as well, wasn't it? So
yes,
was that also the end? Was that a bad experience, East West, compared to?
that was not good. No, it was not good. It was bad. It wasn't great because, like I said, the boys weren't with us. They were for a time, and then Woody obviously had to make a living. He went with Madness, and it just, London dropped us. And when London dropped us, people had to do what they had to do. We were young, and they had to support families, and they had to work. So they took whatever opportunities they could. So we were kind of piecing together the band. We even used session musicians on Sex and Misery, which it just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But that's when it got really hard. Not to negate the beauty and the fun of the first two records. We were a family. We still are a family.
Yeah.
We were a family. We kind of, for the most part, we kept our nose clean. We drank and partied a bit, but we liked to be known as a decent band that was professional and that was nice to work with,
Yes.
I don't know if that was too popular in those days, but that's what we really wanted, for ourselves. And Woody was really a legend, and he was, worked hard and did as much as he could with both bands for a while. But, I always say it kind of, just as it began, remember I was saying how it began in a charmed way? It kind of ended in a natural way. We just kind of let go and said, let's see what happens. And all signs were pointing to it's done. We're done.
Yes, because this was the John Major years, wasn't it? You almost got to Britpop, the New Labour period. So was it the case then, the album came out in 96, did you tour that album at all?
They tried for some reason to break America, and all of a sudden it's like, why are we trying now to break America? And so they hired these 3 LA rocker guys, and it just wasn't, it was gut-wrenching. It wasn't the Beehive. In fact, one guitar player, I will never forget it, at one point said, "Everybody put your hands in the air." And I turned around and said, "Don't. We are a British band. Don't do that ever again." One thing I learned from the Brits, you don't say, "Come on, everybody," and raise your hands in the air. Get down. Get off your knees with your guitar solo, you wanker. So didn't work out. And then we came back home.
Yeah.
And the beautiful dream was over.
It was done, wasn't it? I guess at that stage it was more like a With Nell and I moment, wasn't it, than something dramatic.
I just saw it the other night again for the 18th time. That's my favorite movie. Yeah, that was it, kind of just. So you have me in the park reciting the lyrics to, "Don't Call Me Baby," in the rain.
Yes. So that was kind of. So then, were you homeless at that? Not kind of completely homeless, but were you like, God, we've got where are we? What's our address? What's my name? Was it like?
When I came home, I remember I was in the airport at Heathrow, and I was coming home, and I made one call, and that call was to Zodiac, and he just said, "You're really leaving, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." It's just, it feels right. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but my parents were getting older and my friends were married and having kids, and I was missing all of that. So it just, and it's expensive to live in London if you don't have a weekly wage anymore.
Yeah, I suppose that had been 10 years, so that's pretty good shot, isn't it, really? Like I said, most indie bands just had 5, they...
Right.
And
everybody tells us the most underrated and the most unnoticed and, neglected. And it's like, well, I had fun. I don't know, but I had a good time. I'm proud of the records. I don't know what we were looking for. I don't think it was global fame. I think it was just making music together as the family that we were. And I got that. I got, 10 years of that.
Yeah, I mean, in that world, it's incredible. And everyone has... I always think it must be really difficult, because a lot of artists I know who have their moment in one decade, like a lot of the people I liked in the 70s, their 80s work was like, oh dear, not great. Like people like David Bowie, and then you sort of Robert Plant's solo work was a bit hit and miss. And a lot of people's like Bob Dylan, or I don't know, just an awful lot of people's 80s work was like, oh dear, that's not great. And then they sometimes can find it again in another decade. But it is tricky, and I mean, 10 years is pretty incredible, really, to sort of navigate that.
Right. That's one reason that we probably won't play live again, because our reunion gig at the Lexington was it was the most charmed, amazing night of my life. And I think the band agrees. And I dare say that everybody in the audience agrees. If you were there, there was just something about that gig. Again, like, things cosmic, whatever, but that was the best we got. That was the best the Voice of Beehive had to offer. And we played a long time. We played old songs. We played new songs. We talked. We, bantered. The audience was insane. And it's not going to get better than that. So why keep going back if we did it? We left, as far as I'm concerned, with the Lexington gig, we left on a 10. If you're not happy with that, if that doesn't do it for you, we're never going to do it for you. Was
that your reunion in 2017, or was that because you did a reform one in 2003?
Right. No, that wasn't that one. Those weren't good, which is why I said if I go back again, it's going to be fucking great. It's not going to be good and fun. It's going to be amazing. And my sister and I worked so hard on it, and the boys worked so hard, and there was an ether in the air. And the minute we walked on stage, the audience was just with us. And we all got in this little time capsule and went shooting off to that time. And it was just fantastic.
Yes. Well,
I'm not just crediting the band, I'm crediting the audience too. People come from all over the world. People came from Australia. My friends came from America to come and support us. Steve Mack came. So it was just an exceptional night that everybody got to literally step back in time, which you really don't get to do a lot. We literally stepped back in time in our frocks, and it was just
the business.
Yeah.
So going back then to when you finished and you're back home, then how do you navigate what's your next period of life?
Really tricky, really tricky. I moved back to the San Fernando Valley where I was raised. And it took a couple years what am I going to do with myself now? But I went back to school, and then I ended up in Laguna Beach. I live in Laguna Beach, and where my mom was born and raised. So I moved back here, went back to school, and got my degree to be a teacher for little kids. Fantastic. And I love it. Love it. And what I'm doing now is a program where I teach the art masters. These kids are 3 and 4 years old, and my kids know Monet, Frida Kahlo, Andy Warhol, Vincent van Gogh, Matisse, because I thought if M is for moo or A is for apple, I'm going to lose my mind. A has to be maybe for abstract. M will be for Monet. I can't do that. I have to, give them some culture. You know what kids think of Van Gogh when they hear about Van Gogh? He sold one painting. They love him. They fall in love with him because he was an underdog. And in this program, you teach character, you teach creativity, you can teach language, you can teach history. So I did this program for these 3 and 4-year-olds, and I love it. Finally, after that awkward period, I found my place. I work at a school that is a language school and it has organic gardens, and it's got animals, it's got peacocks, it's got alpacas, it's got a big ancient teepee. It's a really unusual school. It's really unusual, and I happened to find it, and I've been there for 11 years, and I plan to retire there. I just love it. It's really arts-based and language-based.
God, that must be such a delight, actually. Yes, well, that's very
Perfect for me. It's perfect for me.
Well, absolutely. And
it took a while. I worked in a bookstore for a couple of years trying to make ends meet. But that's good. It's all good for you.
Well, actually, I did. Was it Gary Latchman who was in Blondie? He had a long period in a bookshop as well. I think esoteric books is this thing.
It's where you go. If you're a writer, it's kind of where you go.
You end up there, don't you? And your sister, did she manage to sort of find her niche?
She found her way too. She does the funniest thing. When we were in Australia, we came across a fairy shop, and we met 2 fairies. And they had a huge impact on us. And Missy, the folklore of it, the mystique of it, the traditions of it, it's a whole scene if you get into it. And Missy now works at an art festival here, famous art festival called the Sawdust Festival, that goes every summer. And people come from all over to the Sawdust Festival. It's been going for years and years and years. And she has a fairy booth in the back. And she makes tiny handcrafted fairies on swings and in little beds and in caves. And she makes wands, and kids come every year to visit the fairy lady. And she's the fairy lady, and she sells these fairies and does pretty well for herself.
Well, that's fantastic. So it's called the Sawdust Festival.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really neat. She's made a name for herself as the fairy lady.
Well, that's good, actually. Isn't it? Oh my God, so
she's the fairy lady, and I'm Teacher Tracey.
Blimey.
It still involves so much creativity, and I use music every day. I use art every day in my life, and so does she. Having said that, her daughter is going to major in finance at Berkeley, so go figure where that. I have no idea.
My God! And did you enjoy your dad's book that came out as well? Was that quite enough?
I thought it was fun. I really liked reading about his childhood, because I remember my grandma and grandpa, but certainly not that way. It was really neat to get a, fly on the wall experience from him growing up. And, I remember you have to understand, my dad is a consummate storyteller, and he does it. It's his favorite thing to do is to tell stories. I've heard these for years throughout my life. They're just down on paper now, but it was neat. My favorite part was going through when he was younger and reading about when he was a little boy. I thought that was fascinating. And when Grandma and Grandpa had the church, and my grandpa was a chaplain, and that was I just really enjoyed that. And Frank Sinatra and all those legends. And my dad has a way of turning anything into a learning. So that I admired in the book, and I'm going to try, and I guess I do that because I am a teacher by nature. So I thought it was great. Get it?
Yes, well, absolutely. And so Martin got into wig making, didn't he? I remember him telling me.
Yes, the oddest thing again.
Which was
wig making. I alluded, and then Mike.
And then so Mike, I'm based in Norwich, and Mike apparently is in Norwich as well. Is that true? Is he still in Norwich?
I believe he is in Norwich. He's got a daughter, sweet daughter, and his wife, Roxy. And he moved to Thailand. That's what he did. He moved to Thailand for a really long time, which is kind of unlike Mike. Mike kind of likes the creature comforts, and he's a Brit through and through. But he ended up in Thailand and loved it. He got, some spiritual reckoning there, which was really neat to talk to him. He changed a little, which I thought was amazing. And then Woody, our beloved Woody, came back for the reunion. That's another thing that was different. Woody was at the Lexington reunion, not at the Odeon one. Woody was there. It was all of us. In fact, I said, I'm not doing it if Woody doesn't do it.
Right.
Ed, he paid us the nicest compliment. He said, I've been listening to the songs again. We were a good band. I want to play again. And I thought, okay, let's do it.
It's quite, I guess did it feel like some sort of completion of the circle, some sort of healing. That feels like a nice way to say that's a good memory.
And goodbye and thank you,
Yeah.
And as much as people say you were underrated, well, it doesn't matter because I was there that night, and I know that the audience didn't underrate us that night. We were really good.
Yes. So is it the case then, the album, have you ever had a box set or compilation or any?
Yes, we had something re-released by London, and I did liner notes, which I really enjoyed. I did liner notes of all the songs and how they came to be and recording anecdotes and all that. And that came out and that did pretty well. I think it was in the top of the indie charts for a while. I'm terrible with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then we re-released Honey Lingers as well, and that did charted as well, and we got some interest. But if Martin had his way, we'd be on tour right now. We'd be recording, we'd be on tour, and we'd just never stop. But I love my job so much that I'm not leaving my little class of 12 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds for a year to tour. I'm not doing it. No way.
No,
so
it would be too messy.
It's different. I'm not that anymore. It was fun. The thing for me that's so great is I'm not that anymore. I'm a teacher now, and I love it. But I left, like you said, completed. I left. I wrapped up the package. Here's the Beehive. Best I got, the best we got, and now on to something else. So it doesn't feel unfinished. It feels like we gave the fans, at the last final show, that was our best.
Yes, so that's it's good to know. I mean, I don't know. There must be, as you probably can tell, there has been so many people writing their memoirs. Steve Mack as well. This is so good. And various people who ran the most smallest little record labels went, yes, I've got a memoir. And it's like, and I think it's really nice. I can see people, I think age and this kind of the lockdown period has just kind of made people think, yeah, perhaps I should just archive what I've done and also just to acknowledge it. And sometimes to feel a little bit kinder about what happened. Because it's something I would imagine when you're in the moment, it's just a blur, and then there's a sort of a odd negative feeling. So it's quite nice to revisit that person that you were back then and think, no, that was fine. Don't worry about it too much.
It's funny because I loved it like my father. I love to tell stories, funny stories that have happened. But when I sit down to write something, I can't be bothered. I love telling anecdotes. So maybe one day, maybe a scrapbook of sorts with funny things that happen in pictures I have that, are kind of special. And if it has to be, well, I was born, I just lose interest right away.
I think the guy from, was it The Very Things, The Shend, he did one, which was it was just lots of photographs and the posters of gigs and stuff. And actually, that's kind of what you want, really, sometimes. Yeah. I mean, it's just, and it's amazing because, I mean, you must have a lot of photographs and sort of bits and pieces that we've never seen.
And you know what else? I've journaled since 5th grade. I journaled every single day of being in a band. I can pull up any day you want to mention. They're all in the cupboard, so it'd take me a while, but I have it all written down. I just don't know if I want to relive it.
Because actually the woman who was in the Dolly Mixtures, there was 3 of them. One of them she's just released her book, which was the journals of that period. And she's kind of rewritten bits or taken a bit out or whatever. And I think she's also, I've got the book over there. I think she's added a few bits to sort of clarify, within the journal. Sure. But actually it's kind of interesting, it's kind of, again, it's like a historic snapshot of that time.
Sure.
So did you manage to journal all the time within that London? And
I shouldn't say every day, but absolutely at least once a week. When we go on tour, I just take my journal and a pen, and that's what I did on the off time. And as you know, there's a lot of off time. There's a lot of waiting around doing sound check, and you have 4 hours between when you play. So that I would just write in my journal.
Fantastic. My God, that would be just, wow, interesting. That would be one for a rainy day, wouldn't it? If you ever have a rainy day. Was there any particular other country that took you to heart, by the way? Because a lot of bands go, oh, we were massive in Italy, or, oh, Spain liked us. Did you find any particular other country that took you?
I have real allegiance to London. London and England took us under their wing. That's Great Britain. They were the best. we had great concerts in Spain and Australia. They were very good to us in Australia. But my heart always has to mention England first, because that's, they gave us everything that allowed us to go to other countries.
Yes, my God, that's amazing. And do you still, I mean, I know it's a bit of a funny question. Do you still kind of do you get royalties still from all that period?
I don't get a lot, but I get enough to, I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money. I make enough because it's, I just have to take care of myself. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to get that every 3 months or so. And then what I do is I go once in a while on the I Love Voice of the Beehive website, or Voice of the Beehive official on Facebook. And I'll see messages that I hadn't seen that are, old, that I just don't visit there that much. And some really amazing, beautiful, beautiful things. One man said his wife passed away and he played Perfect Place at her funeral. And I thought that was just amazing.
Yeah, that is
so
amazing.
I wrote out the lyrics, hand wrote out the lyrics, and sent them to him. And he framed them and put them in the corner with candles for his wife. I thought that was really touching. And I don't miss that. I want to know if somebody, if our music means that much to them. But I just 3 years later, I'm going, hey, here's a gift. Thanks.
Yes, that's amazing.
Not too in touch.
Yes, that's it. Because I listened to your cover of "Give Me Shelter" with Jimmy Somerville.
Yeah,
that was really stunning.
I loved him.
So was that a benefit?
That was a benefit. Oh, I forget what it was called. Andy Ross did it, and it was for the homeless, to help the homeless people.
Putting our house in order, homeless. So who came up with the idea of the song, by the way?
I don't know. I just know that we were approached and asked if we wanted to cover the Rolling Stones' "Give Me Shelter." I'm like, what? Are you high? No. But when I heard Jimmy was doing it, I thought, I'm in. Yes, we love Jimmy.
Yeah, it's a brilliant
We were on
version.
Top of the Pops with him, and he came in. We all shared a dressing room, and when he was dressing up in our frocks and all our stuff, he was having so much fun. That was a great time.
God, yeah, no, it's one of those ones I didn't hear at the time, I confess, but I just heard it very recently, because it's such a great song. Can you remember what studio you went to for that? Or
I don't remember.
Yes, but anyway, it was good. It was good. Well, look, actually, because I remember I sort of got in touch years ago to say, I'd love to do an interview. And obviously things get forgotten a bit, because it was like 2019 and you went, sure, when? Tracey? And I went, oh, Jesus, that's a long time ago. God, what happened? God, that's terrible, isn't it?
It's true.
Oh, well, that's life. Anyway, we've done it, and I managed to record it, which was great, and you logged in. Well, look, thank you ever so much for your time. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased that we've connected. Yes, so, I'm so chuffed. But anyway, I'm so pleased you've got such a great career now, and enjoying it.
And we did a history thing. I like somebody I can talk about rock and roll,
Rock and roll.
You know your bands. I know my bands.
I know. It's very geeky.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, look, have a lovely day. Thanks again, Tracey. Take care. See you later.
See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And that was me in conversation with Tracey from Voice of the Beehive. This has been the C86 Show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 Show. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. True. Have a great week. Stay safe.